Hey everyone, my name is David. I am 26 years old and I am from Brazil. But 5 months ago, I could not speak one full sentence in English, not even "how are you" without stopping to think. I was completely lost. Today, I want to share how I learned English in just 5 months without paying for expensive classes, without moving to an English-speaking country, and without wasting time on things that do not work. But this is not only my story. It can be your story too. If you have ever felt upset, stuck, or shy because of your English, keep watching because I was in the same place. And I promise, if you listen to my full journey step by step, you will know exactly how to get better at English. So, let's go back to the start, because my journey did not begin with energy. It began with a big failure that changed my life, the moment that changed everything. I always dreamed of working for a big international company. My goal was to become a software engineer in a big tech firm. I loved coding. I was good at it, and I worked day and night to become better. Finally, after years of hard work, I got my chance. I applied for a large company in the US. The recruiter sent me an email. "Congratulations, you are selected for an interview." I was so happy. I imagined my life in a new country, earning a big salary, working with smart people. But then the interview came. I remember it clearly. I opened Zoom and there were 3 interviewers, all native English speakers. They started talking, and it felt like someone had pressed fast forward on their voices. I could not understand anything. They asked me the first question, "David, can you tell us about yourself and your work in software development?" I panicked. I knew the answer in my head, but I could not say it. I said, yes, I am, software. I do coding, many projects. Good. I am very good." They looked at me. The silence cut like a knife in my stomach. They asked another question, but I failed again. At the end, one of them smiled and said, "All right, David, thank you for your time." I knew what that meant. I had failed. I did not get the job, not because I was bad at coding, but because I could not speak English. That day, I learned the real power of English. It was not only a language, it was the key to my dream. And right then, I did not have the key. I felt small, ashamed, angry with myself. For years, I told myself, I don't need English. I'll just be good at my work, and that will be enough. But now I saw the truth. Without English, I was invisible. That night, I made a choice. I would learn English, and I would learn it fast. Most people, when they start, do one thing first. They pay for costly courses. But I did not do that. Why? Because I had already tried them, and they failed. 1 year ago, I paid for an online English class. The teacher made me memorize word lists, do grammar drills, and study boring rules. But after 3 months, when I tried to talk, I still could not speak. So I knew that expensive lessons were not the answer. If I wanted to learn English fast, I needed a new way. I needed a plan that worked in real life. And that's when I made my 5-month method, which I will share with you now, step by step. Part 1. The first 15 days. The biggest mistake that beginners make is thinking they need more words. I thought the same. I believed if I learn 1,000 words, I will speak well. But the truth is, I already knew many words, but I still could not speak. So for the first 15 days, I did not study new words. Instead, I did something stronger. I learned how to use the words I already knew. Here's what I did. 1. I made a survival sentence list. I asked myself, what do I really need to say daily? I wrote 50 simple sentences for real life. For example, "Hi, how are you? Can you repeat that? I don't understand. I am learning English. I need a coffee, please." Every morning, I read these 50 sentences aloud. Not 1 time, not 2, but 10 times. At first, my tongue felt heavy. But after 5 days, the sentences became easy. 2. I started talking to myself in English every day. This was one of the most powerful things. Whenever I was alone, I spoke English to myself. For example, in the shower I said, I am taking a shower. The water is hot. I feel relaxed. While making breakfast, I said, I am making eggs. I like eggs. They are easy to cook. At first, I felt silly, but soon I saw this was my own classroom. No one could hear me. No one could laugh at me. After 1 week, my brain started to think in English. 3. I practiced 5 sentences a day with a special method. Every day, I picked 5 sentences from movies or talks. But I did not just read them. I copied them fully. I said them 10 times with the same emotion, speed, and sound as the native speaker. This helped me improve my accent and sound natural. By the end of the first 15 days, something changed. I stopped translating in my head. I could say simple sentences without thinking. I felt more sure of myself. But this was only the start, because after 15 days, I moved to the real practice. Part 2. The real practice begins. After 15 days of fixing my biggest mistake, I was ready for the next step. I could say basic sentences without stress, and I felt more free. But I wanted more. I wanted to have real talks. I wanted to understand native speakers without thinking in my own language. I wanted fluency. So I made a new plan. This plan would change everything. If you follow it, you will improve faster than you imagine. I learned something important. When I spoke English, my brain was slow. I knew words, but I could not join them fast. I needed a way to make speaking natural. So I used the question-answer method. This method is simple but strong. Here's how. I asked myself a question in English. I answered right away, without thinking too long. I repeated with different answers. For example, I started with a simple question. What did you do today? At first, I said I worked. Then I added more. I worked on my project. I worked on my project for 3 hours. I worked on my project for 3 hours. Then I took a break. I worked on my project for 3 hours. Then I took a break and had some coffee. Every time I answered, I added details. This trained my brain to speak faster and without fear. Another example. What did you eat for breakfast? First, I ate eggs. Then, I ate eggs and toast. I ate eggs, toast, and a banana. I ate eggs, toast, and a banana because I was hungry. I ate eggs, toast, and a banana because I was hungry, and I like a big breakfast. I did this every day for 30 minutes. My sentences became longer, and I stopped translating. One big problem was pronunciation. Even when I spoke, I sounded very foreign. People understood me, but my accent was heavy. So I used the echo method. This is the best way to fix pronunciation without a teacher. Here's how it works. I listen to a native speaker from movies, YouTube, or podcasts. I pause the audio after each line. I repeated it the same way. Same speed, same tone, same feeling. For example, I took a short movie clip. The actor said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I paused and repeated, "I don't know what you're talking about." At first, it was hard, but after saying it 10 times, my voice sounded closer to the native speaker. Another example from a podcast. It was a beautiful day, so I decided to go for a walk. I paused and repeated, "It was a beautiful day, so I decided to go for a walk." I did this daily for 30 minutes. After 1 month, my pronunciation became much better. Native speakers even said, "Wow, your English sounds very natural." I knew vocabulary was important, but I also knew that memorizing lists was useless. So I needed a smarter way. I used the story method. Here's how. I picked 5 new words each day. I made a short story with all 5 words. I read the story aloud 10 times. I used the words in real talks. Example words: excited, invitation, party, arrive, surprise. My story: I was very excited because I got an invitation to a big party. When I arrived at the party, I had a big surprise. It was my birthday party. I did this every day. After 3 months, I learned over 1,000 new words without memorizing lists. Another problem for learners is thinking in their first language, then translating into English. This makes speech slow. So I trained my brain to think in English. Here's how. I described everything around me in English. Example: when I walked outside, I thought, the sky is blue, the weather is hot. I see people walking. That man is wearing a red shirt. I asked myself questions and answered in English. Example: what am I doing now? I am sitting in a chair, drinking coffee, and writing in my notebook. I also wrote a daily journal in English. Each night, I wrote about my day. At first, it was simple, but after 1 month, my writing became natural. After weeks, I noticed something big. I was no longer translating. English words came to my mind quickly. One of the things I did was simple but powerful. I made a rule. Every day, I had to speak English for at least 2 hours. No excuses. If I had nobody to talk to, I spoke to myself. If I was busy, I practiced while cooking, cleaning, or walking. If I felt lazy, I reminded myself, English is my future. I cannot stop. Part 3. My final breakthrough. Now that I had built the habit of listening and speaking, I wanted to go further. But I also realized something very important. Only speaking and listening would not be enough if I did not understand grammar and structure. I did not want to make mistakes that confused people, and I wanted to sound more natural. I started watching how native speakers built their sentences. Every time I heard one, I didn't just repeat it. I asked myself, why is this sentence like this? For example, I heard, I have been learning English for 5 months. But in school, I had learned, I am learning English for 5 months. That was my first big lesson. School English is often different from real English. So I started studying the difference. I learned about tenses in daily use. Why do people say, I have been learning instead of I am learning? Small details like this made a big difference in sounding natural. I wrote down sentence patterns and used them in my practice. Prepositions were another challenge. On the bus, but in the car. At night, but in the morning. Why? I carried a notebook and wrote confusing ones with examples. Whenever I had doubts, I searched online or listened to how natives used them. To practice more, I began writing a diary in English every night. At first, it was simple. Today I went to work. I was tired. I ate pizza. It was good. But I wanted more, so I asked myself, how do native speakers write? I read blogs, books, and news, then copied their style in my diary. Shadowing became a big help. I played videos of native speakers, wore headphones, and copied every word after them, matching tone and speed. I did this 20 minutes daily. In weeks, my pronunciation improved a lot. Watching movies also helped. I used subtitles, but instead of watching passively, I paused after every sentence and repeated it. I copied pronunciation and rhythm. Slowly, I began sounding natural. At this stage, I realized something huge. English is not only about grammar or words, it's about confidence. Many people know English but are too scared to talk. I decided I would not fear mistakes. I spoke to people in English whenever I could, at shops, at work, with friends. I spoke even if I was unsure. I saw that people understood me, even with errors. That gave me courage. But then came my biggest fear, talking to native speakers. I was afraid they wouldn't understand me. So I made a plan. I prepared 10 common topics and practiced them daily. How was your day? What do you do for work? What's your favorite food? I trained myself to answer fluently. Finally, I joined an online group where people practiced English. At first, I was nervous, but soon I realized everyone was learning. I made friends, practiced, and had fun. This boosted my progress a lot. As I reached the last stage, confidence grew inside me. I was no longer the same person who failed because of poor English. I had changed myself step by step with focus and practice. One day, I looked in the mirror and spoke in English. But this time, I didn't hesitate. I wasn't translating. Words flowed naturally. It felt like magic, but it was the result of months of effort. That same day, I tested myself by joining a group talk with native speakers. At first, I was nervous, but I told myself I worked too hard to stop now. And I spoke. Words came out clear and confident. I understood others without struggle. People listened to me, nodded, and even asked me questions. That was the day I knew I was fluent. 5 months after I began, I applied for my dream job again. But this time, I was not the same David who had failed before. I was not nervous or weak. I walked into that interview with confidence. I spoke clearly and answered every question. I didn't just speak English. I owned it. I could see the interviewers were impressed. Days later, I got the call. David, congratulations, you got the job. For a moment, I couldn't believe it. My dream job. The same company that once rejected me now wanted me. My salary was $5,000 a month, more than I ever imagined. I stood there, phone in hand, eyes full of tears. The first thing I did was call my parents. Mom, Dad, I did it. My mother cried with joy. My father, a man of few words, simply said, "We always knew you could." I realized I wasn't just doing this for me. I was doing it for them, too. With my first salary, I bought my father a watch he always wanted, but never bought. For my mother, I bought a gold necklace. At first, they refused. "We don't need anything, son." But I told them, "This is my thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." At that moment, I knew everything was worth it. Every struggle, every late night, every doubt. It was all worth it. Key lessons from my journey. Mindset is everything. Many people fail because they believe they can't. I fought the same until I changed my mindset. I told myself, English is not hard. I can learn it. I stopped saying, I am bad at English, and started saying, I am improving every day. If you believe you can, you will. Surround yourself with English. I made English part of my daily life. I changed my phone to English, watched only English content, listened to English songs, and followed English speakers online. I named everything I saw in English. That's a car. It's blue. These small habits built my vocabulary naturally. Speak without fear. Mistakes are part of learning. Native speakers don't laugh at you. They respect your effort. I forced myself to speak to shopkeepers, strangers, and even to myself. The more I spoke, the better I became. Active listening and shadowing. Listening is as important as speaking. I trained my ears with podcasts and audiobooks. I shadowed by repeating sentences right after I heard them. This improved my accent and fluency. Smart vocabulary learning. I stopped memorizing word lists. Instead, I learned words in phrases. For example, instead of only happy, I learned I feel happy today, or that made me happy. Learning in context helped me use words naturally. Grammar by practice. I didn't waste hours with grammar books. I learned grammar by speaking. When I made mistakes, I corrected them. For example, I used to say, he go to school, but later I said, he goes to school. Practice taught me grammar better than books. Consistency matters more than perfection. I didn't wait until I was perfect. I practiced every single day, even if it was only 10 minutes. Some days I spoke, some days I wrote, some days I listened, but I never skipped a day. That was the secret. You don't need expensive classes. You don't need the perfect place. You only need strong desire and daily practice. Imagine yourself in 6 months, speaking English with confidence. Imagine new opportunities and how proud you'll feel. Start today. Speak, listen, write, and don't stop. This is not only about English. It's about changing your life. And now I want to tell you this. If I can do it, you can too. It doesn't matter where you begin. It doesn't matter how weak your English is now. What matters is starting today. I know it feels hard. I know it seems impossible. But the only thing between you and fluency is consistency. Stop doubting. Stop making excuses. Surround yourself with English. Practice daily. Make mistakes, learn, improve. Because here's the truth. The pain of discipline is short, but the pain of regret lasts forever. So what will you choose? Choose discipline. Choose growth. Choose success. Your fluency journey starts now. If this story helped you, like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll support you every step of the way. Let's do it together.